Okay, it's fantastic. Hi, it's Ethan Mussolini, the Merchant of Success. Welcome! Yesterday was my 45th birthday, and I felt inspired to, do 45 lessons I've learned by the age of 45. So the thing is, I last did these sorts of series when I turned 40. That was 5 years ago. And I felt this would be fitting again to do this. To share because my passion, apart from family and God, my number one passion outside God and family is sharing and impacting lives. That's my number one passion. So in a way, it's a celebration. So I'll be sharing insights, and this is part one, so to speak. So I appreciate you for those on this inaugural session. And the first one that I found very useful, that I found very extremely impactful, is clarity. And when I say clarity, it is really that clarity is power. The more clarity you have, the more powerful your goals are going to be. If you're not clear about what you really want, and if you're wishy-washy, then you cannot break through. So spending time to clarify, asking yourself the question, what do I really want? What do I want out of this business? What do I want out of my life? What do I want out of this relationship? What do I want? Even right now in this series, have a goal. What do you want to pay attention to? I like what Thomas Leonard said, that clarity affords focus. Thomas Leonard is really the grandfather of coaching. And, when you're able to focus on something, yesterday evening, I was watching something, and this guy was talking about the circle of focus. In that once you have a circle, if you see this figure on the screen here, where it's written 1, assuming that's all the energy that you have, the moment you have one thing, then you can put, assuming this white space here is all the energy that you have, or this box here. Let's stick with the circle, because I like the word circle focus. Assuming 100% of your energies are here, if you just have one item, it means all 100% of your energies are focused on one item. If you put 2, then it means your energies are split, ideally 50-50. If you put 10 things, then you're putting 10% here, 10% here, 10% there. But the question, he was emphasizing that to achieve a lot, you need to focus, say, on one thing ideally, and not more than 2. But how do you know what to focus on? You need clarity. But finding clarity is eliminating options and aligning with values. So for me, and today's session is about the C's. There are 10 C's. So you can put C's in your notebook to remind yourself of that. So always be clear about what you want, and ideally why you want it also. Because once you know the why, it not purifies, it enhances that power of clarity. The second C is conviction. It's not enough to be clear about what you want. You have to feel that this is the thing for you. That conviction is a family held belief. And I like what Winston Churchill said, that one man with conviction will overwhelm 100 who have only opinions. Conviction means, today's session, it won't be like all the rest of the sessions, but today's session, I wanted to have a thread that runs through. So number one, you're clear about what you want, but then there has to be conviction. You have to build that conviction, and you build that conviction by writing as many reasons why as possible. So for me, when I was starting way back, I'm grateful that way back in 1998 is when I made a decision that I was going to do motivational speaking after discovering my gift. But the conviction came in as a result of me asking myself, okay, why am I doing this? And the conviction also partly was that sense of faith, because it's like God was sending a message to me saying that this is what we need in Africa, people who can give people hope. So I had that level of conviction in myself. So you need to not only be clear, but you need to build that energy, that foundation of conviction, because remember, part of you getting what you want is to get other people on board. So there has to be, and to convince people, you yourself have to be convinced. Other people will not be convinced unless you are convinced. So you have to be convinced about your idea. So spend some time meditating on it, asking the reasons why as much as possible. Pray about it. Be clear that indeed, those of you who, I'm sure, those of you who have the belief that, we are all from the same source, God, then you ask your God. Then once you get to that clear signal, that gives you solid conviction. The next key, which I found very useful, not only is it important to be clear and to be convinced, you must build competence. Because you're being convinced about something without ability, and I know we have some professors in the room, they value the idea of skill set and ability. So you have to develop your abilities. I know that the Bible even says that, oh, do you see a man skilled in his craft? He'll serve before kings. And when we say kings, you can also take it as a metaphor. Kings might mean serving in a kingly organization, a kingly business, kingly skill sets, or an opportunity. Look at kingship as a metaphor for being at the top, serving at the top, or being on the top table. Kindly remember to mute, and yeah, so just look at it that way, in that frame, to say that, look, I have to develop competence, because if you do not develop competence, then you will not be able to achieve as much as possible. So remember that, okay? Now, I'm going to make some of us, Florence and Bagarukayo as co-hosts, then you can help me manage. I forgot to do that in case someone forgets to mute. Okay, good. So, competence, once again. So that knowledge, skills, abilities, and behaviors that contribute to an individual's performance, that's what competence is. I like what Jim Rohn said, that don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Don't wish for less challenges, wish for more wisdom. I love that. That's the late Jim Rohn, and he's one of the teachers I followed earlier. He has a lot of content online which you can check out. So when you look at things like skills, wisdom, okay, when he says wish you were better, he's talking about abilities, he's talking about competence. So I was some time back, I believe it was last year, my daughter, who is now 8 years old, I believe she was attempting to climb somewhere, and it was a short distance. It was like 2 years ago. And for me, I was noticing that she was struggling, and in my head I was like, oh, that's a little distance. And what I forgot to realize at that moment is that I was speaking from a level of higher competence. Of course, with time, with better competence, that will be a no-brainer. So meaning there are things we consider. So there are things, how many of us, by type the word "to" if you have seen or noticed that there are things that you consider to be difficult and other people consider to be easy, or there are things that people consider to be difficult and for you find them easy, meaning it's either way. Type number 2 if you've noticed that. Type number 2 if you've noticed that in your life or business or career or anywhere. Type. Those of you who have attended before, I'm always keen to see the level of engagement. Can see even Kenneth is there. Good. Fiona, type 2, and so I want to see. Yeah, great. So the difference wasn't because you're special or more special, the other party is more special. No, it's just that the other party had more competence. So you and I always need to ask ourselves, how can I improve my competence? Or how can what if this is the thing that I want to achieve? What is the competence I want? I've seen Kenneth in the room. He's an engineer, but what I know, and I'm not an engineer as you can imagine, but what I know is that once the architect has put everything in place and all that, then there are things like bill of quantities and all these other things. They say, okay, you need this. Meaning that building won't be put up unless there are certain materials, certain frameworks, certain ways of being. And the same way, look at your dream as a building, in that there are certain materials you need. And in this case, the materials we're talking about, the skill sets, the competence is very, very important. Now, next key is not only is it important for you to develop the competence, you must also develop the confidence. Okay, because I've also seen many people who are, how many of us have noticed that there are people who are competent, but they are not confident? If you have ever noticed that, type Y or 3. If you've noticed that there are people who are they are competent, you're like, you're competent, my friend. How come you're not moving? And you see that they can do something, but they have all the competence in the world, but they lack confidence. So I've noticed, yeah, I'm seeing lots of Ys, fantastic. So in my years of facilitating and coaching, I've noticed that over and over again. And I mean, my first coaching client was in September 2003. So next year, by the way, I'll be celebrating 20 years of doing this full time. Doing motivational speaking and coaching and training and being self-employed in this space. So next year, you will see me celebrating 20 years of something, 20 years of doing this work. So confidence is extremely important. You have to work on your confidence. And that's about being sure of yourself and your abilities, not in an arrogant way, but in a realistic, secure way. Like what Michelle Obama said, that your success will be determined by your own confidence and fortitude. Now let's stick to confidence. So meaning you develop your abilities, once you've worked on your competence, then you have to develop that sense of belief that, you know what, this I can do, this I'm capable of doing, this I can, okay? And that also, and in case you haven't done so, I know that last year I did the whole segment on confidence. So if you go to succeedingdaily.com, there should be, look out for a video on confidence. I want to go into details here. Here I'm picking out the nuggets that I've found most useful in my life. Confidence is something that, so if you have listened to my life stories, I struggled a lot around issues to do with confidence and self-esteem. I believe one of the items I'll talk about is self-esteem in the future. Florence reminded me about that. So then you work on your confidence. And that one important key to success is self-confidence. An important key to self-confidence is preparation. So the preparation here we talked about, of course, is the competence part. Then it's not enough to be confident. You must also have courage, because remember, confidence is about you telling yourself, you know what, I'm sure of my ability to do this. But you see, that's one aspect. But courage, you dare to win. Courage is not the strength of the body, but the strength of the spirit. If you have courage to begin, you have the courage to succeed, as Jehovah said. But let me tell you what I mean by courage here. Courage is where now you're able to pull the trigger, so to speak. Because you might tell yourself all you want, but if you're not able to finally pull the trigger, to finally put the step forward and say, I am in, it requires courage. Okay, it requires courage to announce something. And part of this courage is to be aware. Now, this is where all these other things that the other C's have become very clear, very important. Things like clarity, competence, and confidence. Then they help you to build that courage, because you're clear that this is what I want to do. I recall at one time, I was really struggling when I had just started. And one of my relatives, one of my guardians looked at me and said, why don't you get a real job? And that really put some questions in my head. But, you know, I'm thankful that at least by that time, number one, I had the clarity of mind. I knew I had the competence. My confidence it was a bit shaky. But the fact that I was very clear about what I wanted, and I knew I had the competence, and I knew that this is the goal, that this is what God wanted me to do, it gave me the courage. I had the courage and the guts to stick in there. And sometimes when things are not going the right way, you need that courage. And once you have the courage, next level is creativity. So you have to find a way to create things, put things out there in the world, because the world belongs to the creatives. You can even write it somewhere that the world belongs to the courageous and the creative. So you need to be courageous, and of course you need to create. When I say create, I mean bringing something to life, something new to life. Because that God, I'm banging my table, hopefully I'm not making too much noise. That we are co-creators. God is a creator and we are co-creators. Okay, so you need to think at that level and say, De Bono was one of the key foremost thought leaders around creativity. He said creativity involves breaking out of expected patterns in order to look at things in a different way. So there are two things to look at here from the creative perspective. There's breaking away from the norm, where we say, oh, that guy is creative. And the other creativity I'm talking about is creating, not only but creating, bringing things to life. So this presentation, it's come to life. It was an idea, now it has come to life. You create, you have to create things. You have to it's not enough to make a bold move. Then you have to create something. Then also to stand out from the crowd, of course, you have to have that creative, innovative touch around that, because one of the day when this came so clear to me, I know I've shared it with some of us before, is when I was at Hotel Africana many years ago. I was 29 years old, and this guy, I had already produced 3 books, and I had a DVD on space management. This guy comes, Ethan, I bought all your things. Anything new? It's at that moment that I knew, oh, I have to create. I have to be creative. I have to be always creating. You have to be always creating. Okay. So I know that we have 4 tips to go. But before that, before I continue, please type 1 in the chat box if this is making sense so far. Is this clear? Does this make sense before I proceed? Type. I need to see the people engaging for me to also know that I'm talking to someone, that you're tuning in. Fantastic. Okay, someone said no. Okay, the person who said no, you're welcome to, at the end, hopefully I will set, okay. All right, so please remember to mute. Okay, my co-host, you can help me mute people. All right. No, at the end, I'm sure I'll have a few minutes at the end to open it up for Q&A. There's someone who said it wasn't clear. The next is completion. Now, to be very frank with you, this is an area where I am not yet fully a master at, but yet I know it's extremely important, and I will share with you what I mean by that. That if we commit ourselves to successful completion of a task, then we personify excellence. So my core strength is really starting things. And of course, you also need to figure out what your core strength is. So it's also important, if you're my type, have people who are good at completing, but that doesn't absolve you of developing the competence around finishing. So completion means following through, finishing things, because if you don't finish things, then you have half-baked things. There is what they call emere konye. What is that in English, by the way? Emere kukona, meaning it's half cooked, half baked. Is that the equivalent word? Who knows better English than I do? Emere kukona, emere tojifumbye bulungi konye. It's the food is not properly. Herbert says half cooked. Okay. Half-baked. Okay, yeah, those are the words. Thank you, Herbert and Angela. Half-baked or half-cooked. Half-baked and half-cooked projects, they do not add value. No one is going to buy half-cooked food. No one is going to, and if they buy it, and by accident, you may cover it up as if, it's all well and good. But the key thing is, you have to, people will catch up with you anyway, and this stuff will catch up with you. And in future, I'll be talking about integrity. So complete things, figure out how to complete things. Now, one of my personal experience over the years, what I've noticed, part of my challenge, I believe, is me opening my mind up to new things before completing what I'm working on already. You remember when I was starting, I talked about the circle of focus. So if there are 10 things, it means these things you're giving them 10% each. Of course, that is theoretical, but you get what I'm meaning. There's your focus is thrown around all over the place. So like the last couple of the last 8 months or so, there's a study I was taking through. I finished over 20 books. of a certain series, but I focused on that, and luckily I completed. But I minimized all these other things that were distracting me, and that's how I was able to finish. So completion for me is one of the key things that I'm focusing on, I'm working on, and it's one of the core keys to success. And it is so underrated. Many people do not talk about this, but in my 45 years of living so far, this is one of the biggest keys. You would rather focus on one thing and finish it rather than have 10 things and you have them incomplete. One complete thing. For example, one product or service that is on the market is 1,000,000 times better than 10 projects in the works. Okay, so please, I can't not emphasize this enough. This is one of the gaps I know, that if I had learned this the way I understand it now, I would be 1,000,000 miles ahead. How many of you, does this make sense to, if you have understood this point, or if how many of you are in my box or in my world where you notice, wow, this is one of the key things I have to focus on immediately and next year to first complete what I have before I talk on other things? If you're one of those, type the word me. Okay, Herbert has set the pace and say me, I'm seeing hands. Okay. Me, I'm seeing a couple of me's here. So that's fantastic. One of my closest friends told me that for him, is very wealthy and very successful. This is what he told me, and it caught my attention, but I didn't get it then. Now I'm getting it. He said that for him, if he's working on something, let's say certain projects, he's building a certain building somewhere, he has a couple of properties, and you bring the hottest deal in the world, he will say no to it. I was like, wow, that's completion. The other C, it's not enough for you to complete something, you need consistency. Okay. The secret to success is constancy of purpose. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in, day out. That's Robert Collier. Now, there are people, let me give you an example in my career, for example. There are people I talked to many years ago, and they were in high school. Now they are managers. They're the ones calling me for business. Because I've been consistent in my career, at least in the last 20 years. So, but if I was jumping here and jumping there and jumping there, now, of course, if you haven't found out what you're supposed to do in life, that's fine. But I'm saying once you've found out what you're supposed to do, you need that level of consistency. So last time I was, some of you are here because you noticed that last time when I promised that I would do something, I did it. That's consistency. So once you've completed something, and let's assume you're brilliant at making cakes, make sure that the sugar is consistent. The quality of the flour you're buying is consistent, or even better, so that people can count on you. Consistency. Those things you do on a daily basis, that's what will determine ultimately your life. And then number 9, the second last key thing is communication. You need to talk. That right to be understood, speak to be heard, and influence behavior. That's according to Clark Powell. But if there is one thing I have to emphasize, especially for us leaders, and I can see most of us, all of us are leaders in one way or the other, with just different levels. That's what I know. But this, I challenge you, I'm calling upon you, make mastering communication one of the key things. Look at people in their eye. Don't just touch their feet down, but just look at them in their eyes, communicate, master this skill. Okay, so I'm noticing that Emily can't hear me. Is that from me or it's from Emily? If you're hearing type 1, if you're not hearing type 2. If you're hearing me, type 1. If you're not hearing me, type 2. If you're hearing me, okay. So then Emily, unfortunately, it's from your side. So, okay, cool, thank you. So make mastering communication one of your core goals. How to write, how to speak to people, because right now you're still online because I'm able to communicate to you. Master public speaking, master sales and marketing, master persuasion, master So passing on your message, because you may have a project or an idea, if you're not able to communicate it to people to understand, then you'll be stuck. Then you cannot move forward. So for me, it's extremely important that you constantly grow your abilities, your skill sets around communication. Because for you not to do so, you'll be doing yourself a disfavor. I can tell you that. Okay. All right. Then finally, and of course, I'll be sharing with you one last thing. Finally, is I've noticed this community. That alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. But this is what I discovered, that this concept of self-made is overrated. None of us is self-made. Okay. All of us are made by people. I believe it's Hillary Clinton who wrote the book. The title, I believe, was something like, "It Takes a Village to Raise a Child." If you recall, I'm sure some of us here have read that book. If I've mentioned the title exactly, you can type it in the chat box. But it talked about, it takes a village to raise a child. In the same way, it takes a community to help to realize your vision. So one of the reasons that I am doing some of these things is because I know that you as a community, you've contributed to who I am. Because if you weren't, say, attending some of these workshops, some people here are clients, have been clients for years. It's a community. Some are staff members. So it takes a community. So once you know what you want to achieve, you need to start building a community. Now, a community is also not about going there, say, give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. It's also about you giving out. So like right now, I'm giving out. So, and for me, that's a biggie, okay? That's a biggie for me. I'm seeing some happy birthdays coming here and celebrating. Thank you so much. I appreciate that also. So just remember, build community, okay? Now, I can see we still have a few minutes, and I know there is someone who said that things weren't very clear. So you can, first of all, type in the chat box what you found most, before what you found most useful. You can type in the chat box if you have a question. But so now, before the chat box, let's summarize this thing, and please pay close attention to this. Number one, you need to be clear. Once you're clear, you need to be convinced about what your clarity is all about. Next, you need to develop competence to say, you know what, since this is what I want to work on and I'm convinced about it, that I have to develop the skill sets and the abilities in this. And not only do I need to develop the abilities, I need to be confident that with these abilities, I can get going. And once I develop confidence in my abilities, I need the courage to start. Actually, courage here is about you starting and stepping out. And not only that, do you need courage? You need to be creative. You need to think outside the box. You need to think with God, to co-create with God. You need to complete things that you start, not leaving them half-baked. And then, of course, you have to be consistent so that people can count on you, left, right, and center. And of course, you need to communicate. You need to master communication so that the world knows what you want and how you want it, and they seek support. And out of that, you need the community, because it's the world that will help you realize all these dreams, okay, to make these things happen. Now, I would also like to know in the chat box what you found most useful in the presentation, and how are you going to implement these lessons moving forward. That's something else I would want you to type in the chat box. Now, today I received a phone call from someone on this email list and said, Ethan, happy birthday, belated happy birthday. I said, thank you. Said, okay, you know what? I want to send you mobile money to celebrate your happy birthday. I said, which number is this number in your names? Of course, I said, yes. It was my first time to receive money on mobile money as a birthday. So I said, you know what? There could be other people who want to give me mobile money. So those are the numbers. if you feel like sharing a gift of Momo as a birthday present or whichever present that you want to, but if this is the first time I had someone giving me money, mobile money as a birthday gift, so feel free and encouraged and inspired. I won't tell you how much that person sent me, just if you feel it in your heart, and if you don't, that's perfectly fine. For you being here, that alone is a fantastic blessing, because I love sharing wisdom with people. And you see my market, share your contact. My contacts are there. Philip Okumu says I need to work on 4 and 5. And if you have a question, please type in the chat box the question that you have. Oh, and in case Florence, please, Florence is my personal assistant. So Florence will type her phone number in the chat box. That's always the best way to reach out to me. You may need coaching in communication skills or life and career development on these things. And of course, remember, tomorrow we'll be here again at 6 p.m. Please invite your friends. It's the same link that you saw in your, wherever you go to these details. Agnes, thank you for the invitation. I'm grateful to God. Okay, great. I loved all the 10 C's. Each feeds into the other to obtain the whole. Moving forward, I'm prioritizing number 9. Fantastic, Goretti. Thank you for noticing that. Yeah, they feed into each other indeed again. So there's someone who, okay, that's Florence's numbers. She's my assistant. In case and at Success Africa, we do human resource consulting, training, and coaching. No, not human resource consulting and development. So, okay, anyone with a question? There's someone earlier who said, Fiona said, thank you for sharing the wisdom. You're welcome. I wanted to be as brief as possible because I noticed that Darren says, thank you for, shall you share the slides for reference? Yeah, Florence, we can arrange so that we share these slides. Florence, take note, Darren is asking that. It is now clear it was number 6. Okay. All right. Cool. It was number 6. Okay. I think for me, it's the focusing on one thing that I need to master, Kenneth says. Yes, and Kenneth, especially for us guys who are always coming up with lots of things. You see, what I usually advise is that that those who come up with lots of ideas. You see, a strength in one area can be a weakness in another space. So starting things, being creative is fantastic. And yet at the same time, if you don't, the other downside, of course, is the completion, because you have many things happening and going on. Fiona said, that's for me, I need to master this completion. Okay, look. And for you, Kenneth, a tip for you is, since you're a leader in your business, make sure that when you're looking for staff, you make sure that you have someone who is good at completing. That will help you big time. Okay. I saw someone else here mentioning something. Can you create a Zoom group for those who don't have time, at least be participating online? Oh, thanks a lot for that tip. And let me see, who is this? Immaculate. So Andrew and Nisima, I've never created a Zoom group, but I'm sure we have also Emily here, who is an IT genius, can help me in that. So Andrew, please, let's arrange. Andrew is our IT fellow, so let's figure out that Zoom group things. First time I'm hearing it, so I'm always open to ideas. Thanks a lot. Would you prefer this, and I've also been debating whether to because I can transmit this live either on Zoom or YouTube. So, okay, Andrew has a brilliant idea. So if you need this presentation, share, you can type your email address, then we can share the slides with you. Thank you, Andrew, for the tip. Oh, Emily says, thank you. I missed yesterday's session. Well, Emily, yesterday was my birthday, so I didn't want to do anything, okay? So I didn't miss anything. Today is the first day. Today is the first day. You didn't miss anything, my dear, okay? So I can see the emails coming through. So that's fantastic. Kenneth says, I think I'll sign out for now. Okay, fantastic. All right, great. So for me, I'm not seeing any questions all I can say is I thought there would be many questions. So then in tomorrow, so that means you would be fine for me to make sure that I expound on these questions, or these tips, spend a bit more time, because I was rushing, thinking that we might have lots of questions. So beginning tomorrow, I'll be going a little deeper on these lessons and the insights rather than rush through them. So this is good feedback. All right. So it's been fantastic being with you as always. And please go to succeedingdaily.com. That's where I had a vision to do 50 sessions online. There are a good number of people here attended those sessions. The dream was to package them into one pack and then sell them for $1,000. God told me to give away everything for free. So they are all online now at succeedingdaily.com. You can go access them, share that, and please share this link also with as many people as possible. Okay, and but Andrew, of course, you may need advisory in terms of you may need counseling or coaching. It could be life, career, public speaking, or communication skills, or you need all these tips and strategies. You can reach out to me, but most crucially, you can talk to also Flores. All right, so it never hurts to finish a little earlier. So I know we're supposed to go up to 7, and there were no questions like I had thought. So tomorrow I'll be maximizing my time. And it's been a huge blessing as always to be with you. Okay, Emily has raised her hand. Emily, go ahead.
Happy belated birthday, Ethan. And thank you for offering us these 45 sessions. We are really nice. 45 tips. 45 tips, sorry.
Lessons, sorry.
Yeah, I thought I read lessons in the email. Yeah, so some of us came late, maybe for the benefit of us. If you still have some time, maybe you can just go through the first maybe 2-3 slides. We missed the introduction bit, so that's why there are not so many questions, maybe.
Okay. No, the good news is this is being recorded, so we will find a way. Andrew, let's get this and put it on YouTube, and then tomorrow we can share the link to this recording, because then it would look for those who will be watching the recording, it may not look pretty repeating things. So that's my advice. So it was recorded, so you will access everything, Emily.
Thank you, Ethan.
You're welcome. Andrew, is that link now working? Because at one time we had issues with that link. The advisory one. Did you check? Okay, so last time I also, okay, those of you who need advisory, go to that page. There is a special offer for that. Who need advisory, go to ethanmussolini.com/advisory. For coaching, go to ethanmussolini.com/coaching. Okay, so I would like to thank my colleagues at Success Africa, and I would also like to thank all of you for having participated in this session. And tomorrow we'll be starting right on time to share with you. So now I've finished the first 10. I'll be sharing you another batch, part 2. Look out for that, and please share with as many people as possible. And yeah, God bless as always. See, my market says happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you, my dear.